To the Historic Preservation Commission meeting of Thursday, July 16th, 2015. The time is 5:05. May we have roll call, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Morgan?
Here.
Commissioner Shire?
Here.
Madam Chair Vartanian?
Here.
Commissioner Vidor?
Here.
Thank you. All present.
Thank you. Number 2, report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on or before Monday, July 13th, 2015. On the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes of May 21st, 2015. Does anybody have any comments or any changes? Corrections? None?
No.
Did we really end at 9:50?
Surprisingly, yes. That was the most lengthiest
I know,
HPC
it was
meeting
hard to
we had.
imagine. Okay, do we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes. Second.
Thank
Okay,
you.
can we have roll call?
Commissioner Shire?
Yes.
Commissioner Vidor?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Madam Chair Vartanian?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion to pass this minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 4 is oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. The commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. And I have one card on oral communications. Greg Grammer.
Good evening, Chair Vartanian, members of the Historic Preservation Commission, city staff. My name is Greg Grammer. I'm the president of the Glendale Historical Society, and I'm pleased to announce that tickets are now on sale for our second annual gala and benefit, an evening at Villa Farinacci, which will be held on August 15th. And this fundraising event will be held at a beautiful 1926 Italian Renaissance Revival private home here in Glendale. And the festivities will include Italian-inspired cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, live music, a silent auction, and the presentation of our annual preservation and volunteer awards. And proceeds from the event benefit the Historical Society's preservation and endowment funds. Tickets are $125 for members and $150 for the general public, and they can be purchased on our website at www.glendalehistorical.org. And many thanks to our sponsors of the event, GNC Properties, The Spot Gourmet, and our media sponsor, Glendale News Press. And I have extra copies of the invitation here if anyone would like one for yourselves or for any of your friends and neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you. I received mine in the mail, so I'm good. Okay, and that was the only card I have on oral communications. So we'll go to item number 5, comments from commissioners.
I had actually a couple of items that I considered, would like the commission to consider agendizing at some time in the future. Back 5 years ago now, in coming October, I think the repeat of the Stonehouse survey had been done. This was in October of 2010. And then back in 2008, we had done, the city had done a reconnaissance survey of the Craftsman-era homes in the center of the city. So those are two relatively mature surveys that we have, and I was wondering if it would be possible at some point in the future for us to consider looking at where we are with the survey. Many of the properties on the Craftsman survey, and I think some on the Stonehouse survey, were designated as 6L. What is it? 6E, 6L.
6L.
In it, 6L, ineligible, but given special consideration. Mm-hmm. So it would be interesting to find out what, if any, of the properties had been, put up for demolition or modification, and if they had been given any special consideration, and just basically seeing if there's been any erosion in the stock of both the Stonehouse and the Craftsman houses since those surveys were done. So that would be a request, not for immediate action, but something maybe to look at, revisit.
If I may, just to clarify, I'm pretty sure my mic is on regardless of whether the light is on or not, but to clarify, I'm really interested in just a assessment or kind of inventory of what had been surveyed at those times in the original surveys, followed up, and just kind of correlation is the property still standing, had been demolished? Is it scheduled for demolition, or was there some sort of
Yes,
conversation?
i.e. not a resurvey per se, but what's happened, how robust are the surveys and what is the process that we've been using by which we assess a lot of these properties, especially since so many. Well, there are also some that are in the 5 category, the 5S category, where they're eligible. It would be very interesting to see if they're all still standing and intact, but also the category 6 ones as well, in which the status is vague and somewhat left to the judgment of the city to decide.
I will say that I think that's probably something we could undertake. Whether that can be done within a month,
I wasn't asking it for it to be done that quickly, just, something to put on the radar screen for the next few months or maybe before the year ends.
Okay. I think we could probably commit to having something in front of you on that topic before the year ends.
And just for my own, just out of curiosity, is that something that staff keeps up on a regular basis, or would you have to go back and sort of do?
We are creating a database for the surveyed and identified historic properties, and it's almost done. We have already 3,000 property in that database, and we are looking at the status code to kind of update the status code of the building to see if even they are in the conditions that they were surveyed in the past. So this is something that is going to happen, like as Alan said, in 1 month. So
Okay.
we already know that. We have some building that they have 6L status codes, but they can be eligible, or even they're not existing anymore. So we have
that's
to
something I'm
reevaluate
interested in
the surveys.
as well. What's happening with
The one that they are not
the many that we had on these surveys? In the Stone House, I don't think there are that many to begin with. So, that one is really...
Yeah. So we are going to.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Did you have any other? Thank you for that.
I have one item that I'd like just a status update on in one of the future meetings, and that would be an update on the Grand Central Air Terminal and the restoration project there and how close they are to completion, or time we could arrange another tour, just
Okay.
information on that. And the second item would be, I don't recall the exact address, but it was the house on Mountain near Nibley Park that had replaced the windows without a permit, and so I know the city had been working with them to remedy that, and I just wanted an update.
Is it facing to the park at the rear?
No,
It's on
I think it's in the
It's just-
1300 block,
Okay.
so it would be
east
north.
of the park, on the north side of Mountain. I don't recall the address, but I
Okay.
think Jay would recall.
Is it the windows at the garage in the back of the house?
Oh,
The
they
front.
replaced the entire house full of windows, took out diamond patterned leaded glass windows, I believe they were, wood windows,
Okay.
vinyl or. It had already come to us for just, I think, a briefing. So I just kind of, they haven't been replaced. Nothing's happened that I see when I drive by.
Okay.
So I just wanted to.
So I
see
will
what's-
follow up on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I can get the address for you. I just don't have it today.
Okay. Doesn't. Okay. Thank you.
That's all I had.
Okay.
I have one.
Yes.
I have a kind of superfluous one. I just want to let you know what's going on with the Crescenta Valley, the Historical Society of the Crescenta Valley. This Monday, July 20th at 7 p.m., they're presenting a program on Poverty Row Studios, creators of the great American B movies. The so-called Poverty Row studios, such as Monogram and Republic Pictures, cranked out thousands of low-budget movies from the 20s to the 50s. We can thank them for such gems as Attack of the Robot Monsters, Plan 9 from Outer Space, and The Terror of Tiny Town. Author E.J. Stevens will detail the history of this not-so-golden age of filmmaking. It's again, Monday, July 20th at 7 p.m. It's at the La Crescenta Center for Spiritual Living, which is at the corner of Dunsmore and Santa Carlotta. They're also having, on Saturday, July 25th at 8 p.m., Silent Movies Under the Stars. This is shown on a 1909 hand crank projector, and they will have live music for accompaniment. It's free. You can spread your blanket on the grass and enjoy. And there's going to be a selection of classic short films from the silent era projected by a restored antique projector. Bring a chair, blanket, or your favorite food or beverages. All are welcome. Again, that's Saturday, July 25th at Two Strike Park. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds fun.
What time is that? Do you have that, or
Saturday? Which
the
one?
film?
The film is Saturday, July 25th at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
at Two Strike Park, basically when it gets dark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's fun.
Okay, next item on the agenda is old business, and having none, we'll move to item number 7, new business. Item A is 1020 Palmer Avenue, Glendale Register nomination.
I'm going to have to recuse myself. Get that directly from recuse.
I think when we did the Craftsman, you said a few words.
No, I was going to note, just for the record, that chair member or board commission member Vidor is recusing herself.
Okay. I mean, we expected the recusal. Can she not make a presentation at the podium if she wishes?
She can make a presentation at the podium if she wishes, but
Okay.
she obviously can't participate in the vote.
No, understood.
Yeah.
It looks like she left the room, so maybe she won't.
Oh, I think she's filling out a card.
Oh, okay, there she is. All right, very good. So we'll take the staff report.
Okay. So right.
Oh, it must be more.
So this is the Glendale Register nomination for the property located at 1020 East Palmer Avenue. This is a structure. This structure is an old gas station, and it's located at the intersection of East Palmer and South Adams Avenue in the Adams Hill neighborhood of South Glendale. The former gas station is a city-owned property within the Adams Square Mini Park, which was developed in 2006 and 2007. The gas station structure itself was built in 1936. This is a typical prefabricated structure, which was built widely as a standard models by Richfield Oil Company during the 1930s. These are some example of this gas station in some other cities. They all have the streamlined modern style, and as you see, all of this gas station have the unique and standard design. So they are L-shaped in plan, have a flat roof, have a central metal and glazed door and windows office, which connected to two canopies which are crossing each other, and these canopies are supported by round metal columns, and at the capital of these columns there are 3 round discs, which is a typical of this design for these gas stations. And some of them have a detached restroom, and some of them have attached bay service. You can see in this example, which are attached bay service for this structure, which is the central office. This gas station at the Adams Mini Park is one of the early example of the gas station. There is another example within the city located at the Kennett Village at the intersection of Kennett Road and Sonora Avenue. This one has a bay service attached to the office, and it has a detached restroom. And this one also was built in 1936. They are similar in style, and both features horizontal growing fascia and also a rounded end fins at the top of the canopies. So the original permit for this structure was issued for Richfield Oil Company, one of the major and successful petroleum company from 1901 to 1966. However, the owner of this structure was recorded as Arthur Wilson, and he owned this structure until 1971. Record shows that it had been at least 13 tenants between 1937 to 1971 for this gas station. And the main gas pump, which was located at this side facing west, was removed in 1992, and the structure itself was converted into a car repair shop in 1998. In 2003, the city purchased the property to create a mini park. The project was a part of the Adams Square revitalization plan approved by City Council in 1999. After identifying the former gas station as an eligible structure for local and state designation in Historic Resources Assessment Report, the city preserved and restored this structure, and this gas station, the former gas station, became the centerpiece of this mini park that we have now. The park was opened in November 2007, and advocates for preserving the old gas station celebrated their achievement. Currently, this building is used for temporary public art displays and the gathering place for the public and neighbors. For the alteration, this structure retains much of its original appearance and historic fabrics. It doesn't have the gas pump anymore, but it features most of its original features. And before the restoration of this structure, the restroom and the locker attached to the office were removed, and some of the glazed windows and door were replaced and repaired. Overall, the building continues to retain a great architectural integrity and remains an excellent example of its style. And it's also retained integrity of location, design, workmanship, material, and also feeling. Staff believes that the property appears to meet eligibility criteria for designation number 3 and 5. And for number 3, the former gas station embodies distinctive character defining feature of the streamlined modern style, and also it is an intact example of the prefabricated buildings built for Richfield Station, and it has distinctive feature of its style, like rounded roof fins, columns with the disc at the top of the capitals, very simple structure, which give the horizontal sense in terms of design. And also for criteria 5, the building is important as one of the few surviving streamlined modern buildings in the city, and also it's an example of an early prefabricated structure. And the former Richville gas station is an important reminder of the city's early car culture and growth of the Adams Square commercial zone. So based on these findings, staff recommends to the Commission to recommend to City Council for listing of 1020 East Palmer Avenue in Glendale Register of Historic Resources and to name it Adams Square Gas Station, originally Richfield Oil Gas Station. And that was my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions from staff at this point?
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yes, I think so. Okay, so with that, I'll open the public hearing, and the first speaker is Arlene Vidor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Arlene Vidor, and I'm a commissioner, but I'm also a resident of South Glendale and specifically Adams Hill. And I'm just really pleased that this little gas station that could finally made it to consideration for local landmark listing, because it certainly has been a historic structure that has caused the neighborhood to coalesce in a very enthusiastic way, really kind of facilitating bringing the neighborhood together over the years. It has a long history of advocacy from the first period in which it was going to be demolished. That was around 1999-2000, at which point the City of Glendale and the Historical Society and the Adams Hill Neighborhood Association all came together and agreed that the station should be preserved. So right from the get-go, there was a lot of nice cooperation around that. But one thing that isn't in the report, but really is worth mentioning, is that sometime around 2005, through some miscommunication, the whole process seemed to unravel and in a most unfortunate way, and the advocacy had to begin again. And that wasn't, I think, any of the doing of the city. It was, some private interests that wanted to see that structure be gone. And again, the community, the city, the Historical Society, our neighborhood association really coalesced around it, and the neighbors went out and collected something like 890 signatures from Adams Hill alone to hold on to that gas station. So it's been a wonderful unifying force in the city. It's a great remembrance of the golden age of motoring for the sake of exploration and discovery, when you had all these little streamlined machine-age stations dotting the landscape. So it has historic significance, but I think most of all it has really community significance for the neighborhood. So it's been a long road to this point, but we're really pleased, and I just wanted to thank you all and for your consideration and show you this. Unfortunately, it can't be seen very well by the audience, but it's a very old picture. The restored version is in the packet, but this came off of the wall of the private garage of Ralph Spinner, who was an original tenant here, and it dates from 1947. Obviously, the photograph's in very bad shape, showing him and his brother and Mr. Wilson with a 1941 Ford at the gas station. So this is the only vintage photograph, true vintage photograph we have of the gas station. We went to AAA. We went everywhere. We tried ARCO, and we weren't able to find anything. So for the public, if anybody is out there and has any Richfield fans or historians who might have a picture, we'd love to have it. But I just wanted to thank you all for your consideration of the nomination on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Next speaker is Greg Grammer.
Hi again, Greg Grammer, President of the Glendale Historical Society. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, I am pleased to offer our enthusiastic support for the nomination of 1020 East Palmer Avenue for listing on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources. The former Richfield Oil gas station is a beloved landmark in South Glendale and the Adams Hill neighborhood in particular. The building's streamlined, modern style and rich history add a unique dimension to the city-owned park, and it is clearly worthy of designation. The Glendale Historical Society is proud of its role in helping to save this structure, and we were pleased when the city agreed to preserve and restore this landmark. We urge the Commission to vote in favor of designation, and we also would like to express our sincere gratitude to Commissioner and former Historical Society President Arlene Vidor for nominating yet another property to the growing list of historic resources on the Glendale Register. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more cards. We'll close the public hearing and turn to my colleagues for...
Well, I just think, to begin with, is Arlene Vidor, who was president, I believe, in 2005 and took up the mantle of getting this station kept from being destroyed and anything else. And I think it's well worth saving and well worth. She nominated, and I think I would support it completely. I think both criteria 3, which is architectural significance, streamlined, modern, and its early heritage of Glendale, are both exemplified actually in this building, and I would support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say thank you so much to Arlene Vidor for putting this packet together, doing the research, and again, your involvement in saving this structure. It's such an iconic style and a great landmark, a great park for the community. So I would fully support the nomination.
Thank you. And I concur. It's not very often that we get to have a potential designation which meets criterion 5 as exemplary of the early heritage of the city. So in that respect as well, we're very fortunate to have this station still here. And yes, thank you, Arlene, for all of your work. And we look forward to enjoying it. I guess I also wanted to say that it's very heartening when the community comes out to band together when something is really important to them and let their voices be heard. So I'm glad this will stay in prosperity. Is that the right word? No. Posterity. And prosperity, why not? For the community to enjoy for many years. So if I have a motion, someone would like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to City Council that the structure known as Adams Square Gas Station be designated as a local historic resource and added to the Glendale Register of Historic Properties. The address is 1020 East Palmer Avenue.
I second.
Okay. May we have roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Shire?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Enthusiastically, yes.
And Madam Chair Vartanian?
Enthusiastically, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For what's passed. Thank you.
Okay. As Commissioner Vidor makes her way back to the dais, we'll introduce item B under new business, which is 310 Lawson Place, design review of proposed addition.
So this is 301 Lawson Place, design review of proposed addition. The addition is 630 square feet to the rear and side of an existing 2,311 square foot single-family residence located in the R1 zone, floor area ratio district 1. And this ranch-style house is also a contributor within Brockman Park Historic District. You are reviewing the proposed project based on the applicable historic district guidelines, massing an addition on the ranch house section, and also the project expected to meet the Secretary of the Interior's standard for rehabilitation for being a contributor within an adopted historic district. The Brockman Park Historic District contains 59 houses built between the late 1920s and mid-1950s. 1950s and designed in the period revival and ranch architectural style. 52 are these houses are contributor to this district. And ranch-style home at 301 Lawson Place was determined to be contributor because it was built within the period of significance and largely retains its original historic character. Staff believes that with the proposed addition, which I'm going to present, the property will remain a contributing structure to the Parkland Park Historic District. The project site is 11,770 square foot lot located at the intersection of Lawson and Valley View Road. The house was built in 1952, and it is a one-story house with an attached two-car garage. The primary facade of this house is facing Lawson Place, and the garage faces onto Valley View. The proposed one-story addition is to the rear and the side of the existing house, and basically it expands the building footprint and will be compliant with the zoning code requirements. The addition basically will raise the roof ridge at this line, and by this raising the roof is by shifting the entire existing ridge to the north and raising it up to 18 inches. The overall height of the building will be 19 feet and 7 inches after this addition, and the existing height of the building is 18 feet and 1 inch. So at the front, the only changes that we can see is this new ridge roof line, and the other character-defining feature will remain in their locations. At the east side of the house, which is the most impacted side, the addition will infill the notch at the north side of the east facade and will create two front gables, while we'll keep the decorative gable ends. The existing gable will stay in its place but will be raised, which is this one, and the new gable will sit into the existing side gable. The existing dovecote and decorative features at the gable end will be kept or will be replicated to the new lower gable end here. And the entire wall under this gable will be clad with the same stucco finish to match with the existing condition. At this side, the original lidded glass window, the chimney, the low wall will stay untouched and will stay in their place. And at the rear, facing the north, the new wall will be similar in appearance, and the placement of the windows and door will be altered. However, the new windows will match with the existing and original windows of the house in terms of size, material, and details. And also the other detail is the rafter tails, which will be built at the same as the existing ones. This is the perspective rendering of the front facade, and this is the side. Overall, the proposed addition will match the existing condition in terms of material, design, and construction method in order to maintain an architectural consistency with the existing property. It will have the same gable roof form and pitch, its same exposed rafter tail, wood siding, and the same smooth stucco cladding, and also steel casement windows. The proposed addition respect the mass and the scale of the house and will maintain the horizontal massing and form of the entire house. And also this rendering shows the north elevation, which is the rear elevation. You can see that this is the only part which will be infilled and which will be visible from the north side. Staff also believes that 3 of 10 rehabilitation standards are applicable to the proposed addition, which are standard 2. The historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic material or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Based on this, the proposed addition will be located at the side and mostly rear of the existing house and will not remove any of character-defining features of the house identified at the front and side. The horizontal wood siding and decorative feature at the gable end facing valley view will be maintained. And some other feature that I mentioned, like the chimney, the leaded diamond pane window, and the low wall, and also the other windows at the front will stay. For the standard 5, which says distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or example of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property will be preserved, staff believes that the project will retain almost all of the property's distinctive features and details. For the standard 9, new additions and exterior alteration or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural feature to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Based on that, no historic materials that characterize the property will be destroyed as a result of this proposed addition, and the new work will also be compatible with the existing massing, size, scale, and architectural feature, and will maintain the integrity of the house and its neighborhood. Staff believes that for a small addition to a residential property like this, using the new material will itself define a type of differentiation. But also, staff recommend to the Commission for consideration if for the new addition can have cornerstone to represent the date of the addition. They can replace it. They can place it somewhere in the addition. that you will decide if you consider that. And staff has condition for approval of this project. The first condition is clarify the method of the preserving the original horizontal wood and dove coat on the new front gable. Show the material and installation detail on the new front gable end at the east side if they are going to be replicated. Two other condition, which is indicating the using the wood at the new siding at the east facade at the end gable end, and also details on the new windows have been already taken care of on the proposed drawing. For the record, we have a common letter from Glendale Historical Society to support the project with some conditions, which has been distributed. And also we receive letters from property owners at 310 Lawson, 314 Lawson, 1536 Valley View, 1454 Valley View, 1555 Valley View, and 300 Cumberland to support this project. And that was my presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions of staff at this point in time?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we'll open the public hearing, and Alan Malikian is the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alan Malikian. For the designer of the project, my office is 2255 Honolulu, Montrose 91020. As staff described, we're proposing about a 630 square foot addition at the rear. We looked through and we addressed this by matching a lot of the details that it's consistent. So one of the options that we had to go to the second level, and we actually studied that on the first option, and it just did not work with what we are doing right now. What we've tried to do is to accommodate all our clients' needs and be able to minimize the amount of addition and minimize the amount of impact that we will have to the existing house. The proposal of the addition of the roof is basically we're maintaining the existing roof framing, and we're proposing to build over it with a California frame. The plate height will remain the same, so basically, essentially, you would not see a difference in height, in plate heights. And I do have some structural drawings if you care to see that. The windows are Torrance windows. We actually contacted Torrance, and they've actually acknowledged that they're original people who actually build and supplied the windows there. So they are going to be the same people that are going to be installing, and they are. It is an upgrade to what it was originally. It is the same window, but it's actually a nylon steel windows that are going to be placed there. The details that are on the top we will maintain. And we would match exactly what we're doing all around the frame, which will be on the sill and also on the head and the jambs. The rear of the addition, I have an alternate for that, an alternate window placement, which after reviewing, my clients felt that we may want to change or add one or two windows there, higher windows that would accommodate them a little bit better and actually a little bit more consistent as far as size. If I may.
Thank you.
So as far as the, if you look at the rear window, I believe it's a north elevation. What we have originally, what we had proposed was a smaller window in the bathroom of bedroom number 2, Then we had the sliding mat in the master bedroom, which that still remains. And we had one single window in the master bathroom. With that, we were basically placing two smaller ones that would work with the actual interior layout of the rooms itself. So other than that, I think it's pretty self-explanatory unless you need some explanation as far as the addition, the structure, and how that's going to be attached, and the details and so forth. As far as staff's recommendation and comments, I haven't received any letter that if staff received that weren't transferred to me, so I'm not aware of any letters that was transmitted to them. But as far as the conditions, we are going to follow what's there, so it is the details that we are going to follow, and we're going to match what's there. So I'm not sure about the conditions, so how we can accommodate, as far as details and drawings that we need to provide later on, or whatever the case may be, we will work with staff on that level.
Any questions at this point of the applicant or the designer?
Yeah.
I just have a curious question.
Mm-hmm.
The windows, are they going to be crank?
They're actually cranked, yeah.
They are?
They're-
The
actually,
replacement
no, I'm
windows?
sorry, they're not. They're actually, I believe they are cranked. Okay.
They're crank, and the replacement,
yeah.
The replacement windows will
They're,
be
they're all
steel?
they're all the same, identical to what's there.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my only question. Thank you. I have, the next speaker is Greg Grammer. Excuse me.
Thanks again. Greg Grammer with the Glendale Historical Society. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to comment on the proposed addition to the Rockmont Park Historic District contributor at 301 Lawson Place. We are very pleased to see such a thoughtful and sympathetic addition proposed for this property. The architect and the owner have clearly paid great attention to the historic features of the house and have been respectful of its significance. This really is a model for how such projects should be approached. We do wish to offer 3 suggestions for bringing the entirety of the proposed addition into compliance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. And it's noted in more detail in the letter that was submitted to you earlier today. We suggest that the line of the historic roof ridge be maintained to avoid altering the appearance of the roof from the front of the house. Rather than raise the ridge, the rear portion of the roof should be a shed running from the existing ridge down to the top plate of the addition. This would provide a continuous slope over the addition, albeit slightly shallower than the historic roof pitch. This change would bring the project into compliance with Standards 2 and Standard 10, which wasn't addressed in the staff report. Second, the new east wall of bedroom number 1 should be moved 1 foot and 1 3/4 inch to the west so that it aligns with the east wall of the rest of the addition. This will set it back from the existing east wall of the living room, providing a visual demarcation between the historic and the new and providing some differentiation. This change will bring the project into compliance with Standard 9. Both of these alterations will require a bit of reworking of the east elevation, but are certainly feasible. Third, the historic dovecote in the east gable should not be replicated in a different location. If the dovecote can't be retained in place, it should be moved, if possible, or a new one built that references but does not match the original, or it should be removed with no replacement. To recreate the historic dovecote in another location would not comply with Standard 3. Also like to take this opportunity to remind the Commission that there are 10 standards for rehabilitation. The standards are collective, not individual. This means that in order to comply with the standards, a project must comply with all 10, and the staff report for such projects should address all of them. Such evaluation on future projects will help the Commission properly weigh the cases that come before it. In this instance, we are fortunate that the project is in the hands of a sensitive owner and architect, and it is to their credit that the project can be made to comply with the standards with minor revisions. Once again, we thank the Commission for its consideration and express our general enthusiasm for the proposed project with a few minor alterations and staff's added conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have one more card. Efren Manyares. I apologize if I didn't get the correctly.
I forgive you.
Thank you.
First of all, I do commend this. It's a very nice work that they're planning to do on the house. I think I agree with the gentleman that just spoke as far as the line from the top to the back of the house. I feel that, I think, and it's just a suggestion, so I cannot do much about it, but I think that the line should be a little bit higher, the roof in the back side of the house, instead of coming like this and like that, as I see it, because that makes it look more like an addition than being part of the house, that the house is one. I don't know if I can make myself clear on that. I do?
I understand what you're saying.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's it. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing is that it says here that the Interior Department, that it doesn't have there are no protected trees on this side. So there is a big avocado tree that I point out to the owner and our planner here, that has been there for the longest time. The previous owner that lived there probably since the house was made, that was his private job, and he had it there when when the house was built. It was already there. I just don't see any notation, and it says here that it's not protected, which could mean that eventually it can be torn down. Is that what it means? If it's not protected, it's an avocado tree, and all that area was avocado trees all over there. Do I make myself clear?
So there's no change on the existing landscape?
I know there is not now, but since it's not protected, it could be changed later on, and they can tear it down. And all I want to make sure is that there is something there to protect it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, avocados are not designated as protected trees by the state or by the city. So,
but what about the Historical Society here?
Well, there could be, in some cases, landscape elements called out in a historic district application, but I don't think in this case
It's
of
not valid then, huh?
So,
Okay. All right. Well, basically, that's all I want to say.
thank you
All right,
for
thanks.
your comments. Okay, I have no more cards. So with that, I'll close the public hearing. We'll go to deliberations. Who would like to start?
Well, I'd like to find out the thing that was discussed in Greg Grammer's letter about why all 10 standards weren't addressed. Rather, they just picked and choose. And if Alan could let us know why.
All of the we certainly hi.
Hello, Jay.
In the haste to write staff reports, sometimes we don't have time, and the Commission has seen many staff reports where we choose the relevant standards that apply to a project. And while it's clear that all 10 standards should be used, they are standards. The house is being used as a residential building. It was built as a residential building. It doesn't seem necessary to tell the Commission that it meets Standard 1. We're hoping that the Commission over time develops a good understanding of the standards. We are moving toward a different staff report format that we're now debuting with our administrative design review reports as well as our GRB reports. We're going to be debuting that for HPC sometime in the future, but we're not sure when. And it provides kind of a checklist format in many aspects of the staff report while still maintaining as much of the design review information as we think we put in our current reports. At that point, we would have a checklist, and we would check which of the standards we believe to be relevant and discuss those in greater detail. But I think I'm comfortable. I was just at a presentation today by one of the local preservation consultants who was talking about CEQA and said, in most cases we just analyze standards 2 and 9, and she presented that to the class in a very blunt way, which suggests that that's how things are done in the profession at times. I don't disagree that there's value in talking about the standards just to reinforce what they are, but they certainly don't all apply equally to every project.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that, and I know that we've seen reports in the past that have all of the standards there, and I personally appreciate hearing that you'll be bringing that sort of a format back, because I don't know that I'll ever know all 10 of them by heart.
Right. I don't
So-
know
and I
them
think it's
in
just
order
nice
by heart.
for the public to be able, each time they see a report, also to be able to just know what all the standards are, even if they don't apply, just to have them there. So thank you for that. We look forward to the debut.
Yeah, someday.
Okay.
To go over the dovecote placement. I
Okay.
didn't totally understand. I mean, I understand what the Historical Society's issue is, and I just wanted to get into more detail about what we're talking about visually.
Okay. With the dovecote. Does anybody want to make more extensive comments before I open the public hearing again to ask that question, or maybe have other questions?
I had one comment, and then which had to do with the roof line and the point made in the Glendale Historical Society's letter, which seemed appropriate and valid for, maintaining the roof line, but obviously we have to hear from the architect and find out, what can be done here. So, that was really one that resonated with me.
At this time, or
Yeah,
did you want to wait? Okay.
Maybe it's best if we talk a bit, and then if we need to bring the architect back to discuss multiple items. Is that okay?
Sure.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the architect for his sensitivity to the existing design features and trying to have it be congruent with the addition. Definitely, we appreciate that in the design. However, I have a few concerns, and I don't think that the addition or the proposed addition is the most elegant solution based on what I see today in this historic contributor to this district. And so I wanted just to kind of review some of my thoughts and comments and hear from my fellow commissioners. But the existing design, if we take a look at the existing elevations, probably the best way to see it, is very, very simple, very streamlined, actually quite elegantly done. The roof lines are very long and elongated, and there's very few roof lines. If you look at the roof lines on the existing roofs that are being touched, it goes from 2 angles or 2 slopes to 7 different ones. And that's a concern to me. I think it's a definite deviation from what this house is, what it wants to be, what it should be. So I think that has some need for some consideration, revision. If you look at the east elevation, you can see where the stone begins to, wrap the corner and the chimney. And then you have the stucco finish starting. That's kind of in a beautiful, almost thirds there. And then you have a very streamlined window on that elevation as it goes towards the north or towards the back of the house. And as you look, and again, you have that kind of that single roof pitch, although it does splay out a little bit toward the back on the existing roof. I feel that you're definitely losing that, and you're adding just a very complicated roof-lined extra structures in many different directions. I mean, in that one elevation, it doesn't fit the elegance of this property today. And so I have a real hard time seeing that is actually being completely sensitive to the initial design. So I'd, again, like to hear from my commissioners about that. Regarding the windows, I have a couple of probably questions for the architect once we get there, but I'd also like the windows to be looked at as what are the existing modules, what are the existing dimensions. Taking a look at the different existing elevations, you can see on the front and the rear existing structures, there's large windows bringing in lots of light to the interior. They're more rectilinear, some even almost square. And yet on the new proposal, you've got small windows, many different sizes. It's just not in keeping with the design of the original. and I think you're losing light, and it feels like the openings are forced and led by the interior floor plan rather than making interior and exterior work together. So I have a concern about that. And again, this is one more comment I have about the windows. I don't know if it's just the rendering, but if you take a look at the north elevation from existing to new, the windows are much closer. Can you go to the north elevation, please? The windows are much closer to the roof line in one than they are in the other, and I'm not sure why that is, or if that's, again, just the rendering. But things like that, it just seems like if we're trying to keep some consistency from existing to new, maybe that should be looked at. I feel some of the elevations where windows had been infilled and now the property is being, or I'm sorry, the facade is being extended, like on the west elevation. We have no window on the extended part of the addition where one of the bedrooms are. Or you did have a window before, and now that's a really long plane without any light coming into the house, and it doesn't look appropriate from a design sense as far as balance. Could you please follow along with the elevations, if you don't mind, on the west elevation?
I don't have the west elevation.
Oh, you don't have those?
West. No. I have the plan.
Commissioners, can you see the
You're looking at this, right?
Yes.
Where we have the one window.
And that now it's gone in the new.
Yeah.
Right, do you have
Right.
this one?
Right,
The
yes.
extended one.
And then the north elevation. So, are you're referring to the north elevation as well as the west elevation?
Yes, north
So
and
the
west.
west
The
before
west
and
is
the
the
west
one.
after.
Right, and the east elevation with
Yeah, it might-
with the long horizontal windows versus what's there now.
So really, the roof lines, multiple gables, additional gables, roofs, roof lines coming towards you. I just feel like it's definitely not in keeping with the original style. The other thing, just I think to note, as the property, if you take a look at the site plan, as the property begins to narrow towards the back, coming close to that stone wall, there's a beautiful setback now on the property, and with the addition, that wall is being brought out probably, what is that, about 6 or 7 feet, maybe 8 feet, which is going to create a very tight alley from the house to the stone wall, which is right along the street, which, again, I think isn't ideal. Right now it's a beautiful setback as the house kind of steps back away from the street. So those are my general comments.
Okay, thank you. Actually, can we get a sense of what is happening here? Or maybe at this point, I'll ask the architect to come up and address some of these questions. We'll reopen the public hearing and ask Mr. Malikian to come up.
My name is Alan Malikian, and I would like to step forward and explain on the board, if I may.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you guys had the opportunity to go there and look at some of the conditions and the reasoning behind some of these the roof lines that we're talking about right now. What we've done is we've utilized a lot of these little details that it's there already. So if you look at the east elevation, you can actually see this breakups. So you have these elements there. There was a question that came about that, or somehow that we would actually not raise this and level this slope to the addition point. What it'll do is, first of all, it would not follow what is there now. This is the profile of the gable and the shed roof detail and the existing condition. So what we've done is we've basically taken the same detail, moved that up to be able to follow the same plate height. Now, once we do this, if I change this slope, then yes, we would actually maintain. The reason that you see this is the existing, and this is where you have the plate height at this point. Okay? If I lower this, then this would come down lower, then we would have to basically just following the slope of the roof, and it's just raised up. Now, as far as this is concerned, if I move this wall, if I move this point out forward, what it'll do is you'll start creating conditions, valley condition, and other conditions there that it's going to be, and we've actually tried that. This was the result of maintaining the existing feature that is there already, which is this, and basically adding a portion that ties into it. This is an existing roof. We're not creating this. This is the new addition that is coming out, and it's basically following the detail that we have there, and it's just basically dying into it, following the same slope, following the same shed roof detail that it's there. There's nothing being proposed that we're changing here. As far as this is concerned, this is the result of this, which is already there. It's not something unique or something new to the details of the house. As far as the window placement, we're actually adding more light to the rooms rather than less light to the rooms. The functionality of those windows and basically putting a high window or we're actually following the proportions of these, and then basically if you take these and you ask for the existing sizes, we have the window schedule and door schedule there. So you can actually take a look at that. But the idea is that we are following a lot of these. So this proportions, and basically taking that proportions and using those and this option. The other one that I brought in, it works functionally, it works better with the uses of interior. But I mean, the other option that it was spoken is that take this ridge, not raise this up, and create a whole new detail, whole new roof, whole new look to the house, that now we have a whole new condition that it's not even anywhere close to be. I mean, it's just completely destroying the entire integrity of the project. Stepping the wall back, or it was mentioned, I mean, that's fine, but I think by matching and maintaining all the finishes and all the details and everything, I honestly don't see any other way of doing it without truly proposing something ultra contemporary that is completely in addition to this, has nothing to do with the existing house. That's the only other way that I can see this happening.
So sorry, if you retain the ridge line, what happens?
If I retain the ridge line, if I retain this ridge line, what it's going to happen is, see how the roof line is coming here? See where this point is? Mm-hmm. This is an existing ridge line that it's actually coming in and it's dying. It's actually a little bit of an overhang there. Mm-hmm. So if I carry this over, well, this roof is already coming down. It's going to die into, so I'm going to bring something completely different. This whole area is going to change in its own detail integrity. But what we've done is we've actually followed and sloped this. We moved the ridgeline back so we can actually die into the existing roof. So we don't really change anything to the front of the house. So this is not a result of a single approach, and the first approach. It was many other. This is the best result that we got, tying into the existing roof line, as opposed to demolishing the roof and creating a whole new roof, completely tearing this whole thing out and building a whole brand new roof over so that you. But wood over here, it's going to be removed and replaced with the new one. It's wood siding. Actually, we brought in all the samples, and so it's just a wood siding.
Can you speak to this area here where we have, it looks like there are no openings?
There are no openings here now. The only small little opening that is there in the bedroom, which is, I mean, we can put that back in. It's functionally, it's not working, but it's in the patio of a family area that it's there. So, I mean, if we have to put that back in, absolutely no one is going to be able to see this. other than the people who are actually using, and it's going to be less of a functional than more of a following what was there before. We're just basically taking that out and plugging it back in here.
When you say patio, that space there where the
Well,
window
this is the
is-
family. This is what it's there now. This is the actual. This is what's there. So the same doors are going to be moved forward, which this is what's there, and it's going to be moved forward, and that's what is happening here. So the same condition that it's there now, it's going to reoccur again.
On the, where that sole
Well, the window
is
is
that little
actually,
window?
it was right here. The patio was, this is the patio line, this was the window
Okay.
in the bedroom.
I see.
And so what you guys are talking about is to take this window and put it back in here so that graphically you can see the window.
Well, while you're on the subject of that window, if I could remind the commission that your purview in a historic district is limited to what's seen from the street, and that wall is not seen from the street.
Oh, okay, that's a good point. Are we the west elevate? And that's fine. I was curious as to what was happening inside the house that wouldn't
Sure.
ask for any light along what looks like a
This is
pretty
the profile
broad
right now.
span
in the
of-
house.
So that's facing the house next.
And
Right.
this is not changing, actually. This is not gonna, it's just basically an extension of the roof line. Of that.
Okay. So I'll reclose the public hearing. Oh, sorry, you had wanted some clarification on the Dove code.
Yeah. Just, I don't even see it.
I'm going to reopen the public hearing.
Sorry.
And ask if you could please address what's happening with the dovecote detail on that one.
Can you,
Is it being recreated? I think we became confused somewhere along the line.
Because
Yeah,
it
please.
looks like it's in the same place, if I'm looking at the right
What
element.
is gonna happen is the existing, this is what we're
See it-
talking about?
Yeah, I
Yes.
don't see it moving on your
Well,
before and after drawings.
It is actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this.
From there.
Oh.
This is gonna be removed, it's gonna be replaced with same wood siding, and same details are gonna be transferred over to the front section, so the same dovecote, unless we want to completely get rid of that and stucco that and then just put this in. But this is the replacement of the opening, right?
And then that whole piece is coming out and being basically reused.
Right. If it can be, if not, then it can be manufactured.
It's going on the addition.
Yeah, it's right here.
Well, both of those gables or pitches are new.
No,
Yeah, that's what I
no,
didn't
this is,
understand. What's before?
this is existing.
Half
Yeah.
existing.
Put your hand on the new
This-
gable here. This is the new
You're saying to the
gable.
Okay,
portion that
let me explain.
increases
So
the pitch
this-
18 inches.
This is
Th-
this.
That.
Right, so
And then-
those two gables are new. Sure, one is raised, but
Right.
new in a different location.
Right, and
And one is added. What I'm saying is neither one of those are existing in their current configuration today, height,
Correct.
Right.
location.
yes. And just for your reference, here's the, if you like to study some structural plans, here's how it's going to actually get.
So Arlene, if you take a look at the left drawing, you can see how close the gable is to the chimney,
Right.
and it's all moving forward, two new ones. And the lower, another roof ended.
Right, because
Well,
we're adding in front and be able to maintain the height. Basically, it's just doing that.
In your roof plan, it would be helpful also to show kind of chimney location. Your roof, you're missing.
It's actually right here.
And you're missing the slope detail on the new roof in the dark gray section to the right.
It's the
What-
follow, it's right here.
It's matching on the new as well?
Right.
What you have shaded?
It's right here.
So does the new gable with the dove coating, is that then because you'll be presumably moving those materials and that detail over, so that's the same size as the existing condition?
That's the plan.
That's the concern.
Right.
Yeah. The likelihood of moving that wood is not great.
It's not going to move, it's going to be
So the idea, the Historical Society's comment, we thought it was very important to retain the dove coat. We think it's a key feature of the house, and given that we accept the presence of this addition and we think it meets the standards, there are several options with the dove coat, and since it could be rebuilt as it was, with all the same dimensions, it could be rebuilt differently, which the Historical Society is suggesting as an alternative. They're also suggesting an alternative where it isn't rebuilt. I think that doesn't meet the standards because we are losing a feature, but obviously it can't be retained in place because the place that exists isn't going to exist any longer. So
I'd probably, I'd probably err to losing the detail than replicating it.
I feel I personally agree with the city on this, that it is a unique and somewhat, it's not the biggest feature of the house, obviously, but it is a feature. It's a relatively small feature, in replicating it, I think that's a case-by-case thing, and the whole idea of eliminating that because it isn't standard practice to replicate. I don't think there's any sin or crime in replicating a feature like that. It isn't, it's a functional, whether it's functioning as a dove coat or not, we don't know, but has anyone ever seen a dove in there?
A dove go in.
but that only happens in Britain, right? But it's there, and I just can't see that as being such a big issue.
If we can,
say, let's eliminate this. Now where it is and its relationship to the various roof lines and how it appears is really the question. Not so much should it be there or shouldn't. Yes, it should be there, but where? That's the question. And that looks like, right now, in my mind, that looks like the best solution for keeping it, but there are other bigger issues about the two roof lines, too. So I just wanted to understand where it was going, and I didn't understand that, I thought it was moving from one place to another, and the other place was still going to exist, but now I understand the design of the two roofs in relationship to one another.
I think if we look at the logic of the Historical Society's comments, it supports the proposal as it stands, in that one of their three options is that it would be acceptable if the existing dove coat were to be moved. Given that wood on buildings is an expendable feature in any historic building, at some point in history, all wood is going to be replaced on every building everywhere, theoretically. The idea that the idea that this is being accelerated, a bit because we don't know what the condition of this wood is fine. But if there was an acceptance of moving the existing wood to its new location, then I would think it's a very similar concept to recreate it with new wood, assuming that the existing can't be removed, which is probably true.
And I'm not going to say that I'm absolutely stuck on, a decision either way in my mind. I guess I would only want to be certain that if it were replicated, that it were done appropriately with the right dimensions. And
we put a staff condition in because that wasn't shown on the drawing, so we asked for I can't remember how we worded it, but for the let's see, condition number.
Right, you're right. Condition number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clarify the method, and then show the material and installation details of the new at the new gable end if it's replicated.
Okay. So that it didn't look like something that was trying to look like the original but didn't quite get there.
Which you could argue could be a way to differentiate it, but
I
that's such
know,
a subtle
but-
differentiation, I don't really support it much, but
Right.
you have so many options.
Feature.
No, it is a simple feature. But they're detailed. I mean, they're simple, but
Right.
they're detailed,
Right.
and they are. I grew up with that feature, so
Yeah. I mean,
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I grew
It's a
up
nice
with those
feature.
dovecotes.
Never saw a dove.
This feature.
Okay.
I don't know that we got a response to the relationship between the roof line and the windows, existing versus new, the
Yes.
dimension.
Higher
We didn't.
aboard.
Would you mind coming, can you, still open?
Yeah, I'm still open.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
In the existing elevation renderings versus the new, it appears that the relationship or the dimension from the roof line to the top of the window is different. And I don't know.
It will be the same. Now, if the rendering, I mean, the intent is that it would be the same. We would maintain the same roof. If you notice at the sliding door on the right, that is pretty much we added a beam across because we have to support the new roof that it's coming over, that it's carrying, extending. Let me walk up.
Sure.
So over here, this section, we'll talk about this section. So this is the existing roof, existing gable. So we're basically extending that forward. We have to add a beam under that, or we're just getting the structural plan, so we would have that to somehow support this. So you would have a little bit of a covering over this, basically, on that.
That
And-
roof has
and-
3 planes.
I'm sorry?
That roof has actually 3 slopes, 3
It's
planes
actually,
to
it won't, it would actually be,
bumping into each other.
it would actually be 1 and 2 slopes. This would be the continuation of the existing. You would just actually carry on. The gray shading is just showing
You've
the
got one in front of it as well.
gray
You've got
shading.
3 on that side.
Right. If you look over here, this, and this little hatching that you see here, it's the extension beyond. So it's an actual continuation of the existing roof. The gray shading is just a continuation of the existing roof line.
But if you look at your sloped and ratios, you've got 3 different ratio types.
Okay.
So what I'm saying, there's actually 3 separate roofs.
Where do you see 3? I'm not sure if I... This roof is sloping back. This is an existing roof.
Well, then
This
the,
is
then
an
the, then the arrow's going the wrong way. They're all 3 sloping back, correct?
Oh, hold on.
It's not sloping back because you've moved-
This is going back. This is what you're looking at, basically. You have this roof, you have this roof, and actually it comes up to about right there, and then from there, it's basically coming down.
No, it's got.
Actually, you know what? I apologize. You
Over
have
this.
a 5 and a 12, which is down here, and a 3 and a 12, and a 2 and a 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right,
So I'm saying-
absolutely right.
Yeah, the roof that's visible from the street maintains the 2 pitch of the existing.
Right.
The roof in the
No,
area we can't see from the street
front
does have
one,
3
yes,
pitches.
The front one is 2 pitch, the back is 5 and 12, 3 and 12, and 2 and 12.
Okay.
That's what's there, and we're just kind of carrying that.
Okay, so
Okay.
just to address, the dimension from the roof to the top of the windows.
So,
See, if you look at the 2 bottom elevations, they're just looking very different, and I'm not sure, you say they're not.
which one?
The
Oh,
2
these?
bottom
Yeah.
elevations.
I mean, the idea is that it's going to be there. So let me just explain to you. This is where the existing line of the roof is, right? We're actually going to be building this across. The same plate height is going to carry over. So it's a matter of just carrying this out and matching this detail, which we already have there over there.
Yeah. Alan, if you look at your section drawings and the detail of the eave, there's additional structure on top of the plate that is jacking the roof up a little bit that we think is probably causing the extra
Which one?
wall area. Yeah, that one.
This
and then
is actually following the existing detail that it's there. So
we have
some-
sheet A400 we're looking at. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're actually, this is actually carrying out, this is actually added on to match the existing. What's there.
Mhm. It just looks like the area, the height of the wall from the window head to the bottom of the eave is greater on the new proposal than in the existing.
We will match that.
But you can match it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if we need to, if that would be maintained. That's the whole intent of adding this California frame over this. So if you can actually see this, this is the same frame line. This is where the plate height is there. This is the existing. And so what you have here is this. So what you're seeing the difference is that on this elevation, you have this point, which is there. And the windows are right there. But as you come over here, if the windows are there, you see that difference there. So it's just a matter of lowering this, and then so this would change. But that's the whole idea. Match the existing roof.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the architect at this time? Okay.
Well, I do have one. Did
Yes.
we address the number 2, the Glendale Historical Society?
Which was?
Moving the east wall of the bedroom 1 foot and 1 3/4 inches to the west.
Stepping it back.
Oh, right.
I just want as an answer. Not that I agree or disagree. I just.
Yeah, sorry. We have one more question. Regarding the new east wall of bedroom number 1.
We actually, in our designs, we actually looked at some alternate designs and how we can actually differentiate this and bring this forward and so forth. We felt that if we actually push this in, we're going to add a new detail. The purpose of this to carry in the same plane is to minimize the amount of breakage. That if you see the existing, you have only 2 planes that you have, one, the larger one with the rectangular window, and the one in the front. So the idea is that to maintain the same type of a concept. So adding a third layer of depression or articulation on the elevation, I think that would add an additional detail, add another additional detail that we have to incorporate on the new roof. And so you're going to have these breakups and you're going to have different. So to be honest with you, I think it's a lot simpler and cleaner just to maintain that in line, with all due respect.
Like you currently have 3 planes actually on that elevation. From the stone to the stucco and then the greater setback.
The stone, no, well,
I think
essentially, the
might-
3 steps are going to remain. If I add that additional step, it's going to be 4th. So if you count the stone for the chimney as 1, then that's the 4th step that we're going to be adding.
I think we could have this historic just come back if we care to, but I think they were just trying to have the step back be between the existing structure and the new, and then be 1 plane, so you still have 3. I'm assuming. So it's not like you're adding another one, it's just changing the location of the setback from where the existing structure stops and your new addition starts. So basically in bedroom 1, you would just lose a foot and whatever suggested to match the elevation of bathroom 1 and bathroom 2.
Correct.
Match that wall.
Oh, so you actually, okay, I'm not sure I understand. Can I walk?
Yeah.
I think the suggestion from the Historic Society was, this is your existing stone.
Right.
Correct.
This is your existing structure.
Right.
At this point, you step back and your wall goes straight.
along. Yes.
So
Yeah,
that
but-
you have this is your new plane. I think that's what they were suggesting.
But again, if I do this, then I still need to have a roof over this, because then this roof, it's a continuation of this. So if I push this back, then what we're going to do is what they're saying is that to eliminate all of this? I'm not sure I understand the.
Well, you can take a look in plan view and figure out that in your elevation, but if the wall is here now, you can determine what that's going to do to your roof line.
If I may, the answer is yes. The impact on the elevation is the sort of shed roof element that comes underneath the dovecote detailing under the gable that we just discussed. That would end up going away. So there'd be a greater expanse of plaster above the bedroom window up to the dovecoating rather than having to break with the little shed roof kind of add-on. And that shed roof addition would sort of just terminate slightly past the windows directly to the right of the chimney because that's an existing feature.
Which would more closely follow what it looks like now. Right?
Yes.
Except for the window-wall relationship, having that much stucco above the window is kind of a different feature than we have on the house. Most of the windows are sheltered by eaves that are close by, if not directly above. It would, I think, create an awkwardness that would deviate from the overall character of the house, where I think the proposal, while a broader intervention, probably is more in tune with the character of the house.
Well, I'm sorry if I may, except for here, this is current condition, right?
Right.
So there's no eave protecting this?
No, not all the windows, but yeah.
And then if we move over here and just kept condition as it is?
Then we would have this window in the middle of a plastered, which has nothing.
So you're saying that there would be a window in this full expanse?
Right.
I mean, we kind of,
you may
have that here.
Window would have to be
You may have to
located.
redesign that elevation so that windows and now new roof structure all go well together, and it's a more elegant solution.
We're going to be proposing a brand new roof style over the existing, so it's not going to match anything that we have there. So there's, in order for us to, we're going to have to do some sort of a hip roof or something there in order for them to lower all the way down to that point, because that's the highest point of the ridge. And in order for us to maintain a consistent roof line, I think it's going towards a direction that it's going to completely redesign that whole facade. And I think we're going to have much bigger problems, in my opinion.
Well, until it's designed out, I don't think any of us would know that.
Okay, so I guess the question is,
We haven't
now
answered
that we understand, right?
Well,
what-
according to what Commissioner Shire said, until it's designed out, how do we know?
If I may, I think a strict reading of what the Historic Society had suggested regarding realigning the wall of bedroom 1 would be that the new dovecote gable wall would just extend to within, I would say it looks like about 3 feet of the chimney. The pop out with the horizontal windows existing, that would remain, and then shortly past that pop out, shortly past those horizontal windows adjacent to the chimney, the pop out would terminate, extend back to the gable wall, and that gable wall would just be a continuous line from the backyard all the way up to the existing house. And the bedroom window would sit under the dovecote detailing centered under the new ridge line.
If the pop-out were removed, it would emphasize the horizontal, or emphasize the verticality of this facade, where that roof actually helps establish a horizontal line that runs across. If the commission is inclined to look for a way to differentiate this, perhaps it could be done with a shallower deviation. I'm not sure if that would work for the architect, but it could be more of a token setback rather than a substantive one of 1 foot and 1 3/4 inches, and see if that might accomplish the goal of letting this not look as if it reads from the original facade while still allowing that section of roof to maintain the horizontal lines of the overall design.
I'm sorry, Jay.
I can
Say
come
that
up
one
and
more
help.
time.
So, if what would happen, I can't draw on these, but if we got rid of this bump out, there would be a vertical line here representing this wall ending, this gable appearing to terminate over that wall, and then we would have this large expanse here, an emphasis of the vertical, a loss of the horizontal. That's character defining for a ranch. we could still have this line here with a very shallow depression, which sometimes we've used in other projects to indicate a deviation so that we're not making the wall plane just skim across and merging the old with the new seamlessly. And I think we could probably even do that, and it would reduce the depth of this roof by a tiny amount. It would look very similar to what's here, but we would still be able to
Have a differentiation.
have a differentiation there. I'm not sure that that's a preferred design alternative, but if you're looking for a way to differentiate, that could be a successful way to.
Now 3 planes.
That would add another. It would add another plane.
Yeah, it
but-
adds another. Okay, so what happens, in essence, I understand, so you're seeing more the verticality if you have that shape of a window, but if you did a more horizontal window as you have in the original.
And I can't remember, is this a window or a door?
It is a window.
Okay, so if we did a more horizontal window, we'd have to keep the sill height where it is because of the egress. So we'd have a larger window there, which would be more in keeping with these front windows than the side.
And I'm sorry, was that which room was that right there?
Bedroom one.
Bedroom,
Oh,
yeah, it's one of
bedroom.
the Bedrooms.
Yeah, bedroom one.
Yeah, bedroom one.
Well, I'm going to take a plunge and say that I do believe the architect has made the best efforts to try and make this workable. I can't. I'm a little uncomfortable with the proposal that, the suggestion that Jay just made, where we could do a smaller indent, because again, we're just adding another, element. And personally, for me, in the current condition, you do already have a broad area of open space with that sort of horizontal opening hanging there, in my personal opinion. I feel comfortable with the solution. I think that's my position. If anybody wants to try to convince me otherwise, I'm open.
I'm happy.
And that's what the recommendation from the Historical Society to push it back the foot plus?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, to keep it as
just
designed.
adding another dimension on that side of the wall that I personally don't think. That's what we've been discussing, right? Are we going to do that extra bump back?
There was two. The Historic Society was recommending just changing the location of where it steps back. Jay was presenting a third option or a different
Right.
option
Yep.
where you could set it back slightly.
Right.
Which I don't
It would
think
step
is.
back again, like the plans say.
That's not a great design option.
Right.
It would be more as a way to assess the differentiation there.
So
Yeah,
then
we support the proposal as designed. We think that's the best solution for this area in terms of the character of the house. But if you got rid of the foot and 1 inch or whatever, the design, it would be fine. I think there'd be a slight increase in the verticality of that facade. It wouldn't be something people are going to suffer over.
Because I think you could counterbalance that with with windows towards the right that were more elongated.
Sure.
So I think I'm hearing either as is or just step it back here, as is the condition today, right? And did I just hear you say because then you'll have this whole
One being.
plane? And then did I just hear you say add window openings that are more vertical?
No, not
Is that what
vertical.
you're
I'm saying if
Horizontal, sorry, the other
Yeah.
horizontal, the
like
other vertical.
like the existing,
Mm-hmm.
you could add more linear. If there was a concern about the verticality being there because you don't now have this horizontal running roof, suppose that would be the solution to balance that. Again, we
So-
may need to see that in a sketch to,
Actually envision it,
if
yes.
you'd like to, but.
So can we ask for a drawing that looks at that, and Or
It depends if this is a fairly small project, and what we generally hope for on a project like this is for the commission to give us enough conditions for us to review it at staff level in the future. So if you say that you would like to see the 1 foot 1 inch pushback so that we have that recommendation met, you could ask to have a more horizontally oriented window in that opening so that we could maintain more of the horizontal flow of that facade. Those are things that we could certainly approve at staff level without needing to bring it back to the commission, but you always have the option to vote to return for redesign.
okay, so why don't we see where we are? How does everybody feel
Can I ask the
comfortable
staff
with that?
question?
Sure.
Can I ask you a question, Jay? Regarding the multiple roof slopes, new roof slopes, no matter what location they're in and what we have purview or not, could I get staff's feeling, is that a good solution to going from 2 planes to 6?
Well, I don't.
Any concern about that, or?
Well, I never counted the planes in total, and I believe what Mr. Malikian said was on the west side of the house there are 3 planes existing, and there are 2 planes existing on the east side right now.
Well, I didn't count all of them. I'm only counting the ones from the ridge to the back. And that are
Right,
new.
but okay, well,
These are,
we'd have to see.
it's like there are so many new ones being introduced, and I wanted to hear if staff had any kind of thoughts on.
Well, we focused on the east elevation, to be honest, because that's what we are looking at. And we felt that the solution was actually rather elegant in the way that it was able to extend the facade to the north, capture the roof pitches that are existing and the concept of the double-pitched roof, the use of the wood siding underneath the eaves to kind of maintain the character that's there while allowing for the addition. And when I just read the idea of putting the shed roof that falls back from the existing roof, the existing ridge line, I thought that was frankly not a good solution. It would completely introduce a completely new roof form, which our historic district guidelines specifically say, as noted in the Society's letter, the original historic roof form should be preserved.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean the historic roof shall be preserved, but the form and the shape of the roof should be preserved. And we think the designer actually solved that at the east side of the house quite well.
By following the slopes.
Yeah, by keeping the slopes, pushing everything back, it certainly does change the facade. It makes it a longer, attenuated kind of wall. But given that we do expect people in historic districts to make additions and houses to change over time, we thought this was a pretty solid solution, following our guidelines and maintaining the character of the property. In terms of the number of roof pitches, I still don't follow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's definitely changed. I still don't quite see all of those, and then frankly the part at the west that we can't see, we really on its design. Assuming we think in terms of the mass scale and any potential impacts on the neighbor are acceptable, that's where we do look at the full picture, because you're also treating this property as the design review board, where we look at impacts on the neighbor.
So that was the thought on the west elevation, that design review board would look at that side.
They would.
And
but
so
the design review board isn't limited in they don't have a level of historic review.
No, absolutely.
So.
But say, for instance, if we're talking about massing or scale, having that new extended elevation with no window or no punctuation like there is currently, like that would be still in our purview. You suggest?
It could be if it were for a design reason.
Yeah.
And generally, the DRB wouldn't necessarily have. We do like to break up facades, definitely. In this case, at staff level, we thought it was appropriate because it's a relatively short section of addition, and it's, we also try to look realistically in design, not thinking historically here about what's happening on the inside and whether, in terms of room arrangements and things, and the DRB does that also.
Yeah.
And it seemed appropriate and fairly harmless to not have windows there because it's not extending the house dramatically. We sometimes see 30 feet of wall that sometimes has no window, and we often ask for a break there, either in the wall plane or just with windows.
Right, and that was my question. How many are we actually looking at?
Well, I think the difference is, although the extension might be, 6 or 8 feet, let me see.
Yeah, we have on.
At least 5 feet at that point. It's hard to tell because the demo lines are very,
Yeah.
I don't
And
know,
then
more than that.
What's this extension? 5.
They're almost 10 feet?
Yeah, it's 15 feet, 5 extending the family room, and 10 feet for the bedroom that's set back from the neighbor.
So there's a window currently there, and now you're extending it at 15 feet with no window from chimney to end of the structure.
It's kind of a lot.
Yeah, the window that was existing is a considerable distance from the property line, at least, looks like 20-plus feet away from the property line.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I would propose a window be put back in to the west elevation. I don't think it impacts the floor plan because we've got.
Okay, is everyone comfortable with that recommendation?
So we're talking about the little,
We're talking about,
Reinstating the
That
window.
little-
you're on the
What you're
west
talking about.
side, west
that?
you
elevation.
put it in? Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the east elevation and get a sense for what everybody's comfortable with. Are we comfortable with the current design, or did we want to do the step back
No,
closer to the
I'm happy
original?
as proposed.
Okay.
What was your question?
If we were comfortable with the design as proposed, or if we did want to implement the step back here as suggested by the Glendale Historical Society, and then just have that long run.
The demarcation doesn't have to be, I mean, the principle of having a demarcation is there, just a longer section now. And, that's really fine tuning what was there before. I mean, the principle is still there. It's the window that kind of bothers me.
The vertical window?
Well, the difference between the window configuration there and what's proposed for this. If I had an alternative solution to this, which I don't, then, somebody say what it is, but this seems fine. I don't think stepping back is a solution, but, you've got this horizontal, this horizontal thing, and then you have these windows, and they kind of seem to compete with one another. I have a better term, bad feng shui or something.
So what's,
Make 'em
sorry,
longer.
But they're
someone
there
help
for
me,
the
what's
purpose
the
from the
small,
inside.
the small
Right,
window
I know. That's an
here?
issue.
The small window here corresponds to,
Probably a bathroom.
oh, that's
Yes.
a bathroom. Okay.
You gotta have them.
So that would be, yeah, that's right, that's the bathroom. So to elongate that would it be a problem to elongate that?
The only issue I see elongating it, since we do have to keep the sill height where it is and meet egress, is it would turn into a squarish shaped window, which you see more. Well, we see one on the west elevation that's squarish, and so there's precedent for that on the house. There's no reason it couldn't be done.
Quite a few squares.
The other issue, just
Like a double hung window, is that what
it's a casement window.
we're having there?
Windows
Okay.
hanging below the line of the wall, too.
The other issue in terms of just window shapes in general is that we usually have hierarchies of window openings, and smaller window openings are usually on bedrooms, especially facing the street. As we enlarge that window, it might appear to be a different type of window. I don't think that's a terrible thing necessarily, but just so you can keep that in mind.
Commissioner Verdor, what was your, I guess, opinion on where the step back should take place? Adjusted or as it is now?
As it is
Different.
now. That
With the
would,
roof?
sorry.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Mr.
Because I'm not, because I think we're creating, are we
There's a
creating
person
an
on the floor
additional
that
plane?
would like to make, I don't know if you want to reopen the,
Sorry?
Yeah.
want to reopen,
Who? Oh, you would like to make
The
a comment? Okay, we'll open the hearing.
I'd like to know why 3 planes are better
I
than
just wanted to go back to, again, the new east wall on bedroom 1 and focus your attention on standard 9, which is very clear. It says that the new work shall be differentiated from the old. And I don't see how you meet that standard if you don't provide some differentiation or visual demarcation. It's not clear to me how having it proposed meets that standard, because a cornerstone doesn't meet standard 9.
Would 3 roof lines do that for you? That's the differentiation today.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Not suggesting that's a good solution. I'm
yeah,
saying it's differentiated, that's for sure.
No, thank you. Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion and see where we go? Or do you want to have further discussion?
I think my challenge is that I don't feel it's an elegant solution, and so without it being kind of redesigned roof line windows and taking a look at, it's going to be hard for me to support the project.
Okay. Fair enough. How do my colleagues?
Well, I mean,
Before you make a motion, sometimes what we'll do is we'll read back the conditions that we've heard so far and make sure there's consensus or lack of consensus on those, and then the motion can be to either approve or not approve. If it's to approve, it can be with some or all of the conditions. And I don't know if I missed anything earlier. You want me to start and you'll fill in?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to add a condition that the window heights at the north facade match the current heights of the windows, so that there's a closer relationship between the head and the eave. We are going to go with staff recommendation number 3, which was basically to relocate the dovecote to the new lower gable. If it can't be successfully removed, it would be replicated, and measured drawings of the existing condition would be prepared so that we could ensure that the new work matched the former woodwork.
Condition 1, I think.
The condition
That's
one.
condition 1, right?
Yes.
Just while we're on the staff conditions, we asked for vertical sections of typical existing and new windows. That's something we like to see, especially when we're dealing with historic windows on this a house like this. I believe window section was provided with a new window, but we want to make sure that they're, if not identical, very close.
Jay, they were provided.
Both?
Provided.
Okay, I only remember seeing one. The new and the existing?
Oh, and the existing?
Yeah, and the existing is the condition. Wood shall be used for the areas of new siding at the east facade. We just didn't have an indication on the drawings that that was going to be wood. We don't want it to be a synthetic wood or another material. Going back to the commission's discussion, but everything in my notes actually at this point is coming down to whether or not the proposal as it stands at the east facade should be voted upon, or if it should be pushed back 1 foot, 1 inch, and whatever, to reflect the Historical Society's comment about differentiation.
On the west elevation, there were
the
no
window, right?
windows shown.
Yeah.
And replace that existing window.
Insert the master letter.
Okay.
I got it, I forgot.
So are we comfortable with all of the conditions as read back to us?
Although there's the
Did you
one.
have any more?
Yeah, no, but I imagine whatever motion is made should, if there's consensus on those conditions, and then focus on the east elevation.
Jay, when you mentioned the windows, did you talk about the proportions? I mean,
Not yet, because that'll be part of there's either an acceptance of the existing condition or possibly changing the proportion of that one-bedroom window.
Okay. That one, which is that? I thought that was the small one is the
small window
bathroom,
at the west.
and the larger one is the bedroom.
Right.
Did somebody want the larger one changed?
That's what we were talking about.
But we were talking about the smaller.
Oh, forgive me. Got that totally wrong.
Smaller one.
Horizontal.
The one in the
I thought we were
bathroom.
talking about making the smaller one more horizontal. Maybe that's where you became confused. Or when we got off our.
Oh, that's easy.
It's over the toilet.
Yeah, that's easy.
That's easy.
Arlene, you had a concern.
We're talking about this window?
No, the small one.
Small bathroom.
Bathroom.
And then it could be just a horizontal window.
No.
You cannot.
Well, yeah. I mean, did we want a more horizontal shaped window to sort of echo what is the current condition?
It just, from the outside, looks awkward, but, when you look at that, that doesn't
a
look
little
that great.
awkward, too.
That doesn't look, we're going from historically awkward now to contemporarily awkward.
If you look at the existing elevations, most of the small single windows are vertically oriented.
Yeah.
So.
Does somebody want to try a motion?
Well, I'm in favor of the conditions cited, except I'm not in favor of the small step back on the new
So you're not.
east elevation. I'm not in favor of,
As,
I'm going to have a police escort to the parking lot, but
you're good.
that's okay.
It's okay.
Stuff.
I think we have consensus on
deceptively
that.
tough.
Oh, we do?
We
Okay, we do.
Consensus?
Deceptively
Did you
tough.
want to
No,
see the
you
step
didn't
back
wanna
as
s-
suggested for
Yeah,
one and a
I'd
half
rather see
feet?
the location of the step back where it meets an existing from
Here?
that impacts roof line, which I'm okay with, but it again needs to be that whole elevation needs to be
Yeah.
in my opinion.
It should be
Yeah, which is a
redesigned.
good opinion.
Okay. So I think then the next question is, do we feel comfortable giving that, if we have consensus on that, do we feel comfortable giving that direction to staff to work with the architect to do the step back and ensure that the new roof lines are appropriate?
No, she
You
doesn't.
don't want it,
3-1, so.
Yeah, she doesn't
I'm
want to step back.
overruled.
I don't care for the step back
you don't care for it either here? Okay.
because it changes everything.
And so the other option is to ask, I mean, I'm hearing that at least two of us, and three of us, I'm not that opposed to looking at the plans as they are.
It would be nice to have something so that we affect standard 9, but
I was not being facetious by recommending a date stone, only because, and I appreciate what the Historical Society says in their letter, and the fact that there's discussion in the community about this standard doesn't mean the standard doesn't exist. This is a small addition in a historic district. It's not, it's not a Glendale Register property. We look at our historic districts as historic entities and historic resources, and not at the individual properties, as you remember from. And until we get any legal direction otherwise, that is the city's position right now. We still want work to follow the standards, but the standards, as I said before and always feel, are not a checklist of things that always mean the same thing on every property. They're guidelines to give understanding of how we should treat historic resources. And given that, I think there is room to kind of accept alternative ideas. I don't think putting the date on this is actually a good idea. I just wanted to put it out there for discussion purposes in the staff report, and appreciate that some things, we could say that the very work that's being done, raising the roof ridge, differentiates it from the previous condition. It's a similar differentiation to what you'd be asking for by moving that wall back. So there's, just many different ways to approach it and interpret the standards.
And again, I think what we're all struggling with is this is a contributor in a historic district, and in a lot of cases, we only have to look at the facade because, that's what you see and whatever you can see from the public right-of-way. But because this is a corner lot, there's equal exposure on two sides of the building. And again,
I did speak too firmly, I think, when I said that it's out of your purview. It isn't, and as Commissioner Shire indicated, and it's true, you are the design review authority for this property. In a historic district, the historic district guidelines apply to the facades that we see from the street, but the citywide design guidelines apply to the other facades, and we treat those just as the DRB would treat any property that it's reviewing, and that's why we break your report down into you're still looking at mass and scale, site planning, and then the design issues. So it's important to remember that, and I'm sorry I overstated that.
Thank you. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion? Whatever it might be.
I'll make a motion. So I move that the property go back for redesign for the east elevation, where the property would, the east elevation, the facade would step back at the differentiation or delineation line, I should say, from existing to new, and take a look at simplifying roof lines at that facade to be more in keeping and a more elegant solution with the original architecture of the house. And I would agree with all other conditions as they have.
And just to remind the Commission, if the only thing that you're adding to this is pushing that facade back, that's something that's very easy for staff to handle. Return for redesign requires that the applicant pay another design review fee, as well as wait in the process to get back to the Commission. So if you feel that if that's the direction the Commission wants to take and push that back, I'm very comfortable that with my colleagues we can meet that condition without it necessarily needing to come back for review. What we try to avoid is having a return for redesign just so you can see if you like the way it looks, because we want you to have kind of a real definitive decision at each of your hearings.
Okay, so do we have a second to that motion? Okay, I think not, so the motion dies. So do we have a new motion?
You're much better at these than I am.
I make a motion that we approve the,
You can
we approve the proposal with the conditions cited in the staff report, with the addition of a window, the reinstatement of the window on the west elevation, and
And then with the window heights.
and reconfiguration or reconsideration of the proportions of the windows on the east elevation.
And then there was also the window at the north elevation, or I'm sorry, the window heights at the north elevation.
Window height and
would
reconsideration
match the
of
existing
window heights
condition.
at the north, on the north elevation.
And existing condition, and the,
I
you
thought
said that.
I
Okay.
reiterated the existing conditions in the staff report.
But Jay, then your idea that because of the new roof lines and everything else, that would satisfy standard 9?
It's a matter of interpretation. It is a differentiation from the existing character and design of the house. I think it's in keeping with the design. I think it's in keeping with other additions we see on historic structures, where when you push a building to the rear, the ridgeline often has to be raised. Here, we're not losing a huge amount of the original roof area, and we're keeping its shapes, its overall form, which I think is important. And you are not bound to make a determination that every single aspect of a project meets each of the 10 standards. It's not a checklist for you. But you do need to be comfortable that this is at the end of the day, the important thing is that you feel that the building is still a contributor to the historic district. That's where if you felt that this would no longer be a contributor, that would have an impact on the overall resource of the district, and that would be something you should take into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there's no solution.
That's the challenge I'm having with
Is it the south elevation that when you look at the facade from the front, you see, you're not looking at articulations of two different roofs, you're just looking at bigger roof that looks more, I don't know how to describe it, like it suddenly looks mansard-like or something because it's a bigger face.
Well, it doesn't look like it does in elevation. It's a continuation of the existing slope. It just has different cutoff points at the two sides. It's not a mansard, it's still a gable roof, just like the current.
Right, yes, right, yes, I know it's not one mass roof, but...
Yeah, I think to me, from the front facade as well as the east facade, you're losing elegance. If you look from the existing structure or existing renderings to the new, in my opinion, it's definitely not a contributor. Again, that's up for... I feel like there's so many changes from roof lines to gables to windows to facades, losing this very elegant solution in the current state that it is missing something.
Personally, I'm a little unclear on how much difference an 18-inch,
Raise of height.
raising the roof line 18 inches will impact the...
It's not so much the height, it's the
front.
fact that the profile changes. Right now, that ridge line runs across the house, and now you're going to have a jaw, you're going to have a break in it. I think the commission also has to consider, we tell residents of potential historic districts that we're going to let their properties change over time and that we're not freezing them in time.
Right.
When you put a rear addition on, and that aspect isn't really related to the east elevation, it's really related to the north elevation, which is the logical place to put an addition on a house in a historic district. If you don't do that and you want to retain the existing roof form, there's not really a way to do it. You'd have to change the roof form either through a shed roof or a new slope that introduces a completely new vocabulary to the roof line, or you would have to put something like a flat roof, push an addition back with a flat roof solution, or I don't think you could even have a shallow slope the way it's straightened or leveling out there. So if the commission is inclined to say, yes, of course, property owners are allowed to put additions on, this one happens to be on a corner property where it enhances visibility issues, but I can't personally see a lot of solutions to extending the house to the north and keeping the existing double-pitched roof line that wouldn't force that ridge to be raised. So it's a trade-off you have to think about and either accept or not accept.
Okay.
Can I add something else?
Yes.
And if you look at the DPR form, none of the character-defining feature described in the DPR form will go away. So basically, everything in the DPR form will stay as a character-defining feature of this house. So this is the point that why we are recording the building's character-defining feature.
Yeah, I think it's the relationship of the character-defining features. In words, absolutely, they'll stay. They've been moved around, changed, and so the assembly of those characters...
This is the change that we cannot avoid that because we need development in the building.
So Jay, thank you very much for that. So I guess the real question is, with these changes, does this become a non-contributor? And is that...
I don't think so. I think this house has a lot to say about the ranch style, and I think it's an excellent example of the type. And I think it's still going to be an excellent example of the type, but it will have gone through some changes. It's not the same house it was before any approval that you might offer. And ultimately, that's a question that I think we have to honor our commitment to the residents who we work with when we tell them, yes, you can put an addition on your house in a historic district. We've added to Glendale Register properties on the Mills Act before, and that in the recent case you couldn't see that from the street at all, but that was a significant change to a Mills Act property, and the commission approved that. That had very subtle differentiation, but ultimately I think an average person walking behind that house would think that that was an original feature of the house. That's my guess. everything's case by case in preservation, as you know, but the message you send here is an important one to people, whether or not they can, approach an addition as an extension of the existing design. We think that was the choice that was made by the designer and the owners here. We find enough reason to support it that we're very comfortable that it meets the standards and that it would keep the contributing status of the house.
I think the other thing that that's probably a little maybe we're struggling with here is too that it's not a big addition. It's only like 630 square feet, but it's not like adding a room. It's like that smaller amount of square footage on almost two full sides of the home, and I'm going to guess that. And you can answer yes or no, and it's outside of our purview, but is the interior of the floor plan of the interior home being completely changed? Yeah. So, I also have a sense that this type of an addition is happening because from what I can see on the plans, that there's being a full alteration of the interior of the home. And so, we have a 630-foot, addition basically around the house. Again, I think, in my opinion, within historic districts, we have told residents that you can make additions to your house, and that we're not trying to freeze, our resources and time. And then, again, I think we're just trying to make our best efforts to ensure that these changes don't depart too much from the style. I think this one is obviously challenging for us. I think the architect has done, again, in my opinion, I think the architect has done the best that can be done. I'm not being an architect, but from, since we're getting a little more, delving into a little more of the finer points on this one, and I think I'm comfortable with what I'm seeing.
Okay. Can we read that?
So I think we have a
Need a
motion
second.
on the table, and we need a second.
Can you just read back exactly what?
The motion by Commissioner Vidor is to approve the project with conditions. Those conditions include the 3 staff conditions in the staff report, a condition to revise the window heights at the north elevation to match the existing window heights and their relationship with the roof, to provide detailed drawings of the existing dovecote so that if it cannot be moved successfully, it can be replicated successfully in the new gable, and to include a new new window at the west wall of the master bedroom. So 3 additional conditions plus the staff condition.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Though I'm sensitive to what Commissioner Shire said in the Glendale Historical Society, I will second it.
Wait, who's taking roll call? Are you?
Take a vote.
Are you?
Yes.
Are you sure? Okay, Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Shire,
No.
Commissioner Vidor,
Yes.
Chairperson Vartanian.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Okay. Enjoy your home. Thank you.
I can't go to their meeting on Sunday now.
Okay.
Or Saturday, excuse me.
And we'll move on to item number 8, Planning Division updates and informational briefings. Do we have any?
I think we do. No, we have a few updates that we'll bring you next month. We didn't have time to put those on the agenda just for some of the projects and issues that you've looked at in recent times. So we'll give you an update on that, and that's it for tonight.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Oh, wait.
What about Billy's?
I want to read my notes.
No, I didn't want to read it. I just thought, well, it's adjourned.
No, go ahead.
I was in the meeting. The meeting's over.
Well, why don't we, can you bring it up next time? Sorry. Can I?
Nothing's going to happen
Can I
between now and
unadjourn?
then.
I mean, if you want to say something.
No, it's okay. I just was, I'll